October 12th, 2020, I sat down to write this, a 21-page article that nobody read, detailing my entire gaming history as far as I can remember. My name is KJ, I come from the land of nobody knows where, Malaysia, and this is my video game history.
Before we start with episode 1 proper, I'd like to just give a brief introduction to this whole series. Video games are such a common language now and such a part of mainstream pop culture that it's very much normal to find common experiences with particular video game titles with people all around the world. You could name certain video game titles or franchises and find that most people around the world have indeed played these. Things like Mario or Sonic or Pokemon, or franchises like Fallout, Far Cry, Elder Scrolls, Just Cause, Command & Conquer, Warcraft, Tomb Raider, Call of Duty, The Sims, the list can go on and on. You can safely make the assumption that anyone who is a gamer now of a certain age would certainly have some knowledge or experiences with these franchises. That's how universal the language of video games is. The 80s and the 90s, however, were a very much different time. And though many well-established franchises can be found in their humble beginnings during those years, the actual library of video games was incredibly esoteric and strange and wild and hilarious. Just take a look at some of these. And in that era, you also had so little knowledge of what was coming out and what it was going to be, unless you had access to things like video game magazines or just had enough friends who were rich and gamers who could buy everything and play them first and then tell you about it. Then there's also the fact that I come from Malaysia, and we weren't necessarily at the front of the queue when it came to access to pop culture. In the 80s and 90s, we tended to get most things later than the places in the world where these things were made. Some of them never even really made it to our shores to begin with. Things like movies and cartoons. I watched Back to the Future when I was a kid, 10 years after the movie came out. I watched it on national TV. I recorded it on VHS. I think I still have it in my house. And so when it came to video games, there are titles that are considered iconic that I actually struggle to find anyone here who's had an experience with it. Things like Banjo-Kazooie, ToeJam and Earl, arcade titles like Golden Axe, Battletoads, even groundbreaking titles like GoldenEye, Ultima. I never knew any of these when I was growing up, much less played them. Put all those things together and you get my little mismatch of video game titles in my history. There are some iconic titles that I did get to indulge in, some really iconic titles that I absolutely missed, and a bunch of hilariously off the beaten path games that almost nobody played. And so, with this video series, I hope to actually go back and play basically all the games that I can remember playing as a kid, hopefully showcasing some games that people might not have known, some of the more esoteric and yet absolutely exceptional stuff that came out in the 90s that I finally did get my hands on. There's some really incredible gems and some absolutely atrocious experiences in the mix, so this is gonna be a fun little romp. So sit back and enjoy this series as we take a little stroll through time through the eyes of just one person in the vast sea of video games. Side note here, I'm going to be playing all the games I can remember playing in chronological order according to their release date, not my memory of when I encountered them. Sometimes I encountered titles much later in life, so it's easier if I stick to the release date. Alright, here we go. Soko-Ban is a puzzle video game that was developed in 1981 by Hiroyuki Imabayashi and published later in 1982 by Thinking Rabbit, based in Japan. Now, I'm pretty certain I didn't play the game in 1982 because I wasn't born yet. I probably encountered the 1988 version that was released for PCs, IBM PCs, I think, on floppy disk. But yeah, trying to find a version of this game that I actually did play is surprisingly difficult because there have been so many re-releases of Soko-Ban over the years that I honestly have no recollection of which version I may have played. I mean, the game's concept of like pushing boxes into pre-designed areas, the concept exists in so many different formats. You can download games like these on mobile now, and it's just been reskinned over and over and over again. So trying to remember which one I did play is almost impossible. I mean, look at this. These are all the different versions of Soko-Ban that you can get, and they're basically reskins of the same game. There's this one here with these simple graphics that are actually the similar graphics to the one you'll find on the Wikipedia page. Then there's this one over here with this like blue and purple kind of look that the early PCs had. I'm pretty certain I played this version. The boxes change color as well when you put them in the correct spaces, which sounds kind of familiar, but I cannot be 100% certain. And they're just reskins of the exact same thing, slightly different color, maybe for a different platform. And then there's updated graphics. This looks a little bit different. I don't know what version this was. And some of them are basically just reskins of the same levels, like this, similar graphics, and then this, same level but updated graphics, and then this, again, same level with simplified graphics. So it's difficult to tell which one I played. However, most of the games I think share the same 50 or 60 levels that were originally published by Thinking Rabbit. So I just randomly went and played the first one that I found online, which apparently has the same levels. This one's level 1. Level 2 looks like that level that we just showed. So I'm going to assume that these are the original levels. So I'm going to play them. Yeah, so we're just going to play a bit of Soko-Ban. Now, I played this as a kid very early on, and I think I very quickly realized that I didn't know how to play it. I think I was really quite bad at this game. Because it's a game that generally forces you to think. Like, you know, rather than just randomly push boxes around, you actually had to think and know what you were doing. And as a kid, I have to confess that I didn't have very much the brain for these kind of puzzle-solving games. And I still think I don't actually know how to play this game very well. Like, a lot of it is based on pre-planning and knowing where to go without blocking yourself into a corner or something like that. So this is the first, well, this is level 2, but it's relatively easy. So yeah, hey, completed. Wonderful. Now this starts to look a little bit more complicated. Let's see if I know how to play this. So yeah, you had to make sure that you had room always to push boxes around. So it kind of, you know, you had to develop the mindset where, yeah, I had to make sure I wouldn't push boxes in a corner, or make sure that I always had access to certain boxes and things like that. It's kind of hard to do. So, see, like right now, I don't even know how to begin. Where do I begin? I haven't got a clue of where I can begin. If I push this box here, I get access to this one down here. Right? But if I... Ooh. Wait a minute. See, I think I've already done this wrong. Okay, I push this back here. I push this here. Aha! Now I've got a little bit of an open loop. Excellent. Okay, so now I've got access to this side of boxes. I can push all of these suckers over there. Pardon my keyboard, by the way. I know it's noisy. But yeah, so as you can see, it's not already level 3, and you're training your brain to think of space the way that the game wants you to think. So it's really good and educational, but like I said, I don't think I ever really had the patience to learn how to play this game properly. I was a kid. I think I played this when I was like 6 or 7 years old, so I had no clue what I was doing most of the time. And I think I got frustrated really quickly and gave up on the game and just watched my cousins play. And they you know, give up really quickly and easily as well. But I very distinctively remember playing this game. And I don't know what it is about this game that I very distinctively remember. But yeah, I just know that I played it. And so in my quest to recount my entire video game history, this game came up. And yeah, I decided to play this thing because it's the earliest, and like I said, I didn't play this in 1981 or 82, but it's the earliest known game that I have on my list of games that exist. This predates even some of the early MS-DOS games. Yeah, okay, there we go. Alright, we're gonna try a more difficult level. Now, as the games progressed, this style of level was a little bit easier to contend with because all the boxes were piled into basically a corner. Now, if you started going down the levels and boxes started, the dots started, so let's say for instance, if we go down to level 49, now the little dots were appearing in the middle. Now you had a little bit of a problem because not only did you need to know how to push boxes into the dots, but you had to know which dots to fill up first so that you wouldn't get yourself locked in. I'm going to attempt a simpler level first because I don't think I'm smart enough to actually play this game. So, level 15, here we go. Oh, okay. Now what the hell do we do? Okay, so clear to me that we can use both entrances. If I push this box down, we're probably gonna lock ourselves. So if I push this box to the right, probably. I'm so nervous to even make the first move. All right, let's just randomly start pushing shit around.
Okay, if I did that, and then I did, what if I did this? So some people are much smarter. Oh shit, I did that wrong. Some people are much smarter than me, and obviously, like, they see this game. You see, yeah, so got two entrances, so you can't just push boxes all the way to the ends straight away. You have to think about how much room you're leaving for boxes to exist next to each other. And I think I've already done something wrong. So what if I did this instead? Aha! So moves are not always obvious, right? Unless you're smart, which I'm not, okay? Shit. This is getting complicated now. What if I clear the top space? Oh shit. Yeah, what if I clear the top?
So I've never actually played any of these levels in full. Like, I've never played them for real. I've only ever just like messed around with them a little bit. So to actually have a real honest attempt at solving these, man, it's not easy. Pushing the corner like that. Okay.
So now I've got this side of the board clear. I feel like we've made progress. Okay, what if I go around now and open this up? Okay. Uh-huh.
So if I push this last box in there... Ooh, shit. We've got these two boxes here which are trapped. I can't move them anymore. Alright, we've lost. Oh, man. So, we can't fill up that little hole there. Anyway, yeah, that's Soko-Ban. I'm not going to be playing too much of this game because it's just the same puzzle game over and over again. However, I will say that this game, without me knowing, was actually preparing me for something, a greater challenge in my future. I've been preparing for this my whole life! Thanks, Soko-Ban! Alright, let's just see what level 60 looks like. This is the highest level in the game. Oh crap, it's huge. Wow. Okay. Where do you even start with a game like this? I'm gonna push all the boxes into their corners. There you go. Alright, and then what? This is clearly an impossible endeavor. How do you get boxes all the way in there? Oh, I think I've already done this wrong. Anyway, if you know how to play Soko-Ban like properly, like actually plan out using some kind of math to figure out what are the best moves, good on you, but this is clearly not my kind of game. But it's kind of fun to revisit some of these old stuff. This was developed in 1981 on tape. I personally never encountered a tape playing PC, but there you go, that's how old this thing is. Anyway, that's it for episode 1. I'll see you in episode 2 when I explore yet more old shit. Bye! Suck it, Victory Road! I've got Soko-Ban training!